Have you ever had that feeling, where you're just not being taken seriously, but you can't figure out why? Well, today we're digging into a viral script that claims certain habits might be the reason. Habits that can make people treat you as optional. We're going to break down the 5 specific behaviors it talks about.
So right off the bat, the source makes this really powerful distinction. It argues that we're not talking about habits that make you weak. No, it's that they make people treat you as optional. And that's the core idea we're exploring today. This surprising link the script draws between some of our everyday behaviors and how other people end up seeing us.
And here's the kicker. The analysis claims a lot of us are doing these things without even knowing it. So, okay, let's jump in and unpack these 5 habits.
First on the list is something called the power of brevity. This is all about that tendency to over-explain ourselves. The source's take is that when we just keep talking and talking, we might be doing more than just filling the silence. We could actually be watering down our own authority.
And this quote right here, it just nails it. The whole idea is that when you feel like you have to justify everything you do, you're kind of sending a signal that you're not totally confident in your own choices. People are naturally drawn to clarity. It just projects confidence.
So you can see the 2 approaches here, side by side. On the left, you've got that urge to keep explaining, trying to convince someone. And on the right, you just state your point clearly, and then you stop. The source is basically saying that when you're brief, your words suddenly have more weight. People actually lean in and listen.
Okay, so if how much we say is important, the next point is all about what we say. This one dives into gossip, something that can feel like bonding, but according to the script, comes with a huge hidden price tag for your reputation.
This is the key insight right here. When you gossip, that person listening to you has an immediate, probably subconscious thought, well, if she's talking about them to me, she's definitely talking about me to them. And just like that, trust starts to erode, no matter how innocent the chat seems.
So this lays out the 2 different paths you can take. You can connect over drama, which is usually pretty shallow, or you can go for connections that have some real depth. The source argues that this second path builds what it calls silent power, basically a rock-solid reputation for being trustworthy, and that is a huge part of being credible.
All right, the 3rd habit is all about our relationship with our own time. It's called the value of unavailability. And the argument here is that being available 24/7 isn't a superpower. In fact, it's a liability.
The big concept here is something the source calls selective access. The idea is simple. Your time becomes more valuable when you're intentional about who gets it. It's not about being rude or unavailable, it's about being thoughtfully and purposefully available. And this slide just makes it so clear. On one side, you have the person who's always there, always saying yes right away. It makes you predictable. On the other side, the person who just takes a beat. They pause, they think, and then they commit. According to the source, that simple pause is what commands respect.
So, from the currency of time, we shift to what the source calls the currency of emotion. This one's all about how we handle our feelings and how the way we express them might be seen by others in ways we totally don't intend.
This quote is, wow, it's a little intense, right? But the point the source is making is that you might think you're just being real or honest by venting about every little thing. But to someone else, it might look like you don't have control, and they might read that as instability.
The script makes this really sharp distinction between what it calls emotional leakage, just letting all your feelings spill out everywhere, and emotional intelligence. And that's all about processing your feelings on the inside first, and then making a choice about how or even if you want to share them.
The source calls it the certainty of self. It's really about one big question. Are you looking outside for approval, or do you have your own internal compass?
Now that is a powerful statement. The idea here is that your real authority, your personal power, comes from you. The second you start looking to other people for validation, asking them for permission to feel confident, you're basically just giving that power away.
So, if looking to others is the problem, what's the fix? Well, the source suggests these 3 pillars. Number 1 is silence, which is that brevity we talked about at the beginning. Number 2 is standards, setting boundaries, being selective with your time. And number 3 is self-respect. That's the internal validation that holds the whole thing up. As we get to the end of this breakdown, the script really boils its whole philosophy down to one final thought. It says that true value isn't about some kind of loud, performative confidence,
But instead, it's raised by quiet certainty. That phrase really sums it all up, doesn't it? The source's whole message is that real authority isn't something you perform for an audience. It's something you own. It comes from knowing your own worth, not waiting for applause.
So that's our look at the arguments in this script. It presents this really thought-provoking connection between our small, daily habits and our perceived value. And it all leads to this idea of quiet certainty. And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. What does quiet certainty actually mean to you?